and welcome back to another Sims 3 speed build. If you're enjoying the content that you're seeing on my channel, be sure to hit a like on the video. That lets YouTube know that you are interested in the content that I am creating, and will also help get the videos out to others to be able to watch. Today we are working on the hospital lot that is going to be for my custom world, Stoneridge Valley. This is going to be sitting on the lot 16 Rock Junction Drive is what I have called it. And it is going to be sitting on a 40 by 36 lot. What I am doing, what you're seeing me trying to do anyway with this lot is what I want is the subway station to also be here at the hospital. That just seemed to make, I guess, kind of sense to me that the subway station, or at least one of the many, is going to be here at the hospital. And I wanted it to be incorporated into the building because, again, the subway station just sitting out in the open, it's not going to fit this style of world. So I thought, you know, if we can try to get it to incorporate into the hospital, that would be best. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a regular hospital already in the game. I'm not sure which pack this one comes from. I want to say it's Dragon Valley's hospital, but I could be wrong. I didn't really pay that close attention, and it's been a long time since I played in Dragon Valley that I can't quite remember all the lots. But it is a rabbit hole from the game. It's either going to be from Dragon Valley, or another pack that I'm using a lot of is the World Adventures, but I don't think this is a World Adventures one. Again, I could be wrong, but the packs will be required. I will have them listed in the download page. They will be required for these lots to be viewable. If you don't have that particular game pack, unfortunately, this hospital, I don't know, honestly, if the game will replace it or if it just won't exist. I'm not sure when it comes to a downloaded world exactly what it'll do with the rabbit holes. I know the other objects, the game will replace it. I'm not sure about the rabbit holes themselves. So it'll be best that you do at least have the game packs that I do have listed, because I do use a lot of the rabbit holes and a lot of the items, street lights, there's a lot of items that's going to be in this world that does require those packs. And I believe I've even used a lot of the rocks are even in those packs. So you definitely want to be sure to at least own those ones. So I'm working on right now, here is going to be the section that has the subway station. Is going to go in this back section here. I thought it would be best to put it kind of towards the back. I do make it where it's not too super viewable. If you move your camera around right, you will be able to get a glimpse of the subway station in there. But I am trying to design it to where, for the most part, you're not really going to see it sitting back there at all. So I'm basically doing what I can to try to get this to look like it's incorporated and it's actually attached to the hospital. Now, in order to do this with rabbit holes, and you'll see I'll have to move the rabbit hole around to get it to fit, you'll need to make sure you put in a couple of the cheats. So the one cheat that's going to be very necessary is your move objects on cheat. That is essential when it comes to doing this, because you have to be able to move the rabbit hole around, and it's going to be considered as an object, and it's going to tell you that you can't do that because there's an object in the way. So you'll have to make sure that that cheat is on. I don't think you need to have any other cheats on in order for it to work. That is pretty much the main one. So that's pretty much what I did here. So I went ahead and made a similar section on the building like I did for the subway station. And I'm kind of putting like a trellis looking thing over here. Kind of like maybe a sitting area. Not kind of like a garden, but kind of not, because I have some plants I think I end up putting here, but not a lot. I wouldn't really say it was considered a garden. But it isn't a place where the Sims, they could go in, you know, and sit and relax right here. Kind of like, You know, maybe they're having a rough day at work, or maybe there's some patients that are at the hospital and they just need to get some fresh air. They can come out and sit. So just a nice little area that I thought that went well with the hospital, and I thought went pretty good to help tie the two sections of the building together. The one thing that you will see as I'm doing the community lots like this, unfortunately, getting the exact brick texture or even the paneling texture that you see underneath the balcony areas of the rabbit hole, those do not exist in the game for you to use, unfortunately. So I did choose hopefully a brick and paneling design that works well, that looks like it would go with this building. So that is kind of the textures that I'm going to be using throughout majority of the world, or at least in the downtown area anyway. I went ahead and saved to my library those textures with those colors. That way I can use them in other lots as well. And that will help it so I don't have to bounce back and forth from lots to try to save them. I saved the actual texture with the coloring. So this is going to be the main sidewalk piece that you're going to see throughout the world as well. I think it works well with the sidewalk that I was able to find or use in the Creative World program. So it was probably about the closest I could find anyway. So, and I think it looks pretty good. I've looked at the world a couple of times in live view, and the stone here, it looks really good. I'm quite happy with the colors. The colors are very close. And when you're kind of moving around the world and doing this and that, you don't really notice too much that it is off a little bit. So I think it did work pretty good. So I am happy with this one. I do some more stuff here on the side that you'll see, just to try to help dressy it up a little bit. I don't do any more of the extended room areas. I thought about it. I had considered maybe doing that, but then I decided not to, and I just kind of like fill it in with some trees and stuff and kind of decorate the other side. You'll see how I end up doing it. So I just put the subway station in, so that is where it's going to be at. I end up taking out some of the as you can see, I took out the archway because it made it where you could really see the subway station from around the building, and I really didn't want it to be that viewable. So I took that out. I ended up putting in some windows. They had this one window. I think these come from, again, the window is either going to come from Dragon Valley or it's going to come from World Adventures. I'm not 100% certain, but they had like an open version of this window and they have a closed version. So that was real nice. So I made those windows where the subway station is to be closed. And then I did kind of a mixture of them on the other one to be open and closed to try to help tie that. And that way it didn't look too awkward or odd that that room area had the closed windows while the other one was open. I kind of just mixed them up a little bit there. So here I am. I had to move the hospital again to get these to be put into place. Again, it doesn't like you putting some stuff up against the hospital, so you're going to have to move it out of the way and then put it back into place again, and you're going to have move objects on in order to do that. So I just thought this would make it kind of nice. It is kind of like a back entrance to the hospital anyway, so I didn't feel that it needed to be too dressed up or fancy back here. But there's plenty of walkways for the Sims to use, although you know how Sims are. They're going to travel through the grass anyway. But I do have quite a bit of landscaping throughout the area, so maybe for the most part they will choose to go around and they'll actually use, for the most part, the sidewalks. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see through testing on how much of them they actually use. So here's one of the lights that I'm using to put in. It is one that looks like it's candlelight. It was a little difficult to try to get them in underneath the hospital here to make it look like it was all lit up, because I couldn't, as you can see, I'm fighting with the game to try to get in a good spot to where I could see And of course, they want to be in a specific spot according to the grid. So it was kind of difficult to make or to get them in certain areas so they would light the area up. I do get the place lit up. One of the issues that you'll find with rabbit holes is even though I have lights, they don't necessarily light up very well themselves. So it's still a little bit dark in some areas, and some areas it's lit up pretty nice. So I end up using this light here instead, because this one at least I could move around and it wasn't quite so dependent on the grid. I could move it off the grid, so that made it quite nice. So I'm putting these all around the hospital. Again, they light up the sidewalk, but not really anything else. It's mostly because I have them inset into the rabbit hole too far, so it doesn't light it up very well. But I didn't want them to be completely out, because it just wasn't, to me, wasn't looking right to have those ones. I wanted them to look like they were attached to the brick and not on a stand themselves. I guess if I would have maybe tried to come up with a design where they stood on their own and it would have lit it up a little bit better, but at least the area is pretty lit up for the most part. The building itself may not be all that much, but the sidewalk area is all lit up, and that's kind of what I was in a way kind of going for, because it was one of the things that I hated the most when I went to a community lot that the game had, and it'd be completely dark and you couldn't see your sim at all. That was probably one of my irritations that I had with the game, was just the fact that my sims would go to a community lot and I wouldn't be able to see them at night. So I'm making sure the best that I can that at least the area is lit up, even if the rabbit hole itself may not be lit up quite that well. But unfortunately, that is some of the limitations that we have with the game, and we're just going to have to settle with what we can get for the most part. So now I'm going around and adding a little bit more landscaping. The building itself is pretty much done. This is just kind of the way it's going to look. Now we're just going to have some landscaping, some trees. So I'm grabbing the trees that I use throughout the world. That way they continue to look like they belong. And, you saw me put some of the sunflowers out. So I thought since the rabbit hole already had vines crawling up the brick, that I would go ahead and maybe give them the sunflowers to help dress them up a little bit. So here's a little sitting area that I told you about, that the Sims, if they wanted to, they could come out here and sit. I don't put anything in the two building areas. There's no chairs, there's nothing inside the two buildings for the Sims to do. I don't even have access to the upper level either. I just chose not to. I didn't feel it was really all that necessary. So I just went ahead and left it blank. And I wanted to make it look like they had a tree here in the center. I wanted the maple tree, but it just was too big, way too big. So I went ahead and I'm using the cherry maple, or the red maple, I believe is what it is. And I'm just using that, and I'm creating like a border, because I felt that the border around the brick helped finalize or fix it up, finish it off, I guess you could say, for the most part. So I went ahead and got some lights in here. I made these ones stick out a little bit more. As you can see, the lighting on the building is a lot better. So like I said, it is possible to get the lighting better, but the ones on the outside, I don't know. I might still go back in and move them a little bit so they can light it up a little bit better. That way it looks nicer. We'll just have to wait and see. It's something I might still consider to do. That way at least the rabbit hole is lit up and not just the sidewalk areas. So just going through right here and working on getting the border put in around the sidewalks. I really should have thought of this and done this prior to adding all the trees and everything, because I got to move everything all over the place just to get it, just to put them down. I had to move the rabbit hole out, which you'll see me trying to put that back in place. That's always fun, trying to get that back to the exact spot where you had it. And the problem with moving rabbit holes around is sometimes they like to jump or bounce. that is something that does kind of happen. I don't know what causes it or why. You'll be trying to move it just a little bit, maybe just a small little amount, and the next thing you know, the rabbit hole just kind of bounces way off to the side or super close, or it can be a little tricky trying to get it to move around. So and just going through and just checking the rabbit hole. Like I said, it was slightly off, so I'm trying to get it back in the exact spot, or at least as close to the exact spot as I could, and just checking different things, different areas here and there. All the lights are pretty much what was telling me where everything was. So just right now trying to get all those into place. This is pretty much it for the build of the hospital. I might do, again, some tweaking here and there, but pretty much this is the way it's going to look, and this is the way it's going to be when you download the world. The lot will not be available to download on its own. It's only strictly going to be for this world. But you could always save it to your world, to your library, and use it in other worlds then after that. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to hit that like button, and I will see you next time. Have a wonderful day.